What is up, YouTube? We are here for our Week 5 NFL prediction video. Coming off a great Week 4 with a bunch of amazing games. This week looks really good as well. Some amazing games. Ton of upset potential here with some teams pulling off big wins. So let's get right into it. I hope you guys enjoy. So, Alex, we are back for Week 5 of the NFL season. Another pretty eventful week. Teams like the Eagles struggling, the Bills struggling. Um, same old story with the Dolphins' current situation. Rashee Rice probably tore his ACL and is done for the season. So, pretty eventful week. What are your thoughts before we get into this week's games?
Well, I think you summed it up pretty damn good so far. Where you saw the Dolphins again with a problem. Tim Boyle or Tim Blow, whoever it is, that wasn't going to work for them, obviously. Um, Kansas City's 4-0, but it came with a cost that event. And the fact that Baltimore started 0-2 and they roared back to that 2-2 is pretty impressive. That's all thanks to Derrick Henry. He had a monster game exposing the Bills on past Sunday. And Buffalo, they're still a good team. Guaranteed it's one loss, but to lose by 25 like that, not a good look. Keep that in mind.
Yeah.
So, you see this team, you see the way things worked out for Baltimore. It's a pretty impressive way to bounce back. Let's not forget that Packers-Vikings game. That really took me through a whirlwind of emotions because it was 27 by halftime. Packers almost came back and won. They outscored the Vikings 22-3 in the fourth quarter. And for Jordan Love, literally every last-minute, last-second decision to start him, I was surprised he was playing. I thought Malik was going to play for a third straight week.
Yeah.
He came in there, and it was a very start. And a very back and forth rock the boat performance. You got that from Jordan Love because he threw 389 passing yards and 4 touchdowns. That's great, but he had 3 picks, and 2 of those picks came in the first half. And by the time it was halftime, he had barely over 100 passing yards plus the 2 picks and 1 touchdown pass. So Jordan Love played a very rocky game that he almost actually won for the Packers. Yeah. So it really says a lot about, what we saw this week. We saw lots of back and forth. We saw blowouts. We saw, close games. We continue to see teams not do well. We continue to see teams do very well. And let's not forget about Monday Night Football because guaranteed the Dolphins lost, which was expected. But, man, we were wrong about Detroit. They played a great game. Jared Goff, a perfect 18 of 18 passes.
That's insane.
292, 2 touchdowns, even caught a touchdown pass. The back to life 6 years later, post the Super Bowl. So that was cool to see the Lions pull that off. And, Detroit played a good game. They're now back at the Vikings for first in the NFC North. So we saw lots of action, and we saw lots of critical games, especially in the NFC North, with the Packers just losing and the Lions winning by double digits.
Yep. No, 100%. Another team that I want to mention that really, really struggled, and it got a little closer towards the end, but what a bad performance from Jalen Hurts, huh? That they were terrible.
The Eagles are a complete debacle, and the problem is that we've seen this last year especially. Obviously, Hurts and Sirianni are butting heads. What's causing this? Play calling or riffraff in general, injuries, you can, really fill in the blank. You can put in all the above for that.
Yeah.
But this is really spiraling out of control where, they won their first, they won 2 games. Now they're 2-2 or 2-3. And,
they're 2-2.
2-2, regardless, it's really something to see because they win versus Green Bay narrowly. They win versus New Orleans narrowly. They blow that game to Atlanta, and then they got blown out by Tampa Bay. And, Baker Mayfield's continuing to prove that he's the guy there. He is the right fit for Tampa, and he's their guy for a long time. But for the Eagles, Jalen Hurts is their franchise quarterback, but he's not playing like one. That's the big problem here. And when this continues to spiral out of control, this is where you have these problems and concerns. And, look, Saquon's doing his part. But it doesn't also help that the receiving core is banged up. That's guaranteed. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. But Jalen Hurts, with a healthy receiving core or not, can barely cut the mustard. And
No,
that's been the
yeah,
case ever since the Super Bowl loss. So there's obviously something going on mentally. It could be something physically maybe as well that we don't know yet because Hurts got hurt a lot, no pun intended, last year. With the shoulder, with so many other different injuries. Maybe he's banged up again this year. It's something that we don't know about. I could be right. I
yeah,
could be wrong. I don't know. But for Jalen Hurts to somewhat be fully healthy, I don't know why we're seeing this. He's
yeah.
he's obviously much better than this.
No,
It also doesn't help that they just went up against a really good Tampa Bay team where the Eagles defense has kind of been whitewater. Sometimes they're good and sometimes they're not.
yeah,
Against Green Bay and Tampa Bay, they gave up more than 20 points in each game. They gave up 30 plus in this loss to Baker and the Bucks. So I think a lot of it plays a role in who they're playing, that the teams they're playing against are actually much better than they think and we think.
yeah,
And they're actually better than Philly this year. But part of it also is there's obviously a massive divide between Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni.
yep,
And something has to be done about it. And it's either Sirianni's got to go or they got to solve this problem.
yep,
And I'm not saying Sirianni's on the hot seat, but if this continues to spiral where Jalen, for some reason, is not happy, if they keep losing games like this, if they have a losing record by the trade deadline, I'm not saying they'll fire him there, but he will definitely be on the hot seat. If
yep,
the Eagles either miss the playoffs or have a very similar year where they just get in and they get blown out in the wild card, Sirianni could be gone by next year,
yes,
even before that. So there's a lot to unpack there, and there's a lot to ask about what's wrong with Philadelphia. What's wrong with Jalen Hurts?
yep,
Again, we can speculate and bring out these answers and potential guesses, but we're not going to know until we truly see how the rest of the season goes. And if it continues to be like this, then maybe it's a Jalen problem. Maybe it's a Sirianni problem. Maybe it's both.
yep.
So who knows? And when you lose to the same team you lost to by more than 25 points in the same stadium for the second straight year, this past weekend and last year's playoff rounds, that doesn't help your cause.
No, not at all. There obviously are other teams that had a lot of problems this week, but for the purpose of time, we'll kind of go more into that when we get to their games. We move into the Thursday night game, a big division game. The 3-1 Buccaneers, as we were just talking about, coming off a huge win against the Eagles, playing the Atlanta Falcons, who just had a great win, even though it was pretty much Younghoe Koo, just field goal after field goal after field goal, but coming back and beating the Saints. What are your thoughts going into this game? What do you think?
Well, this is a big matchup because Tampa Bay obviously owns the division. They've been doing
Yep.
that for the past couple of years, whether it's barely or not. They are winning that division.
Yep.
And Atlanta, that sort of kid coming back up, where they got Kirk Cousins. They're winning games. Kirk Cousins is proving himself to be the guy in Atlanta. Guaranteed, they've had two tough losses. They've also had two pretty impressive wins.
Yes.
So you see the way that Kirk Cousins has been able to take over this offense. That says a lot about the direction they're going. And keep
Yep.
in mind, there's been lots of hype around this Falcons team before the season begun. They're sort of living up to it. There's been some disappointments too. But keep in mind, they are, sort of in this race, which shows that they are being more competitive than we have seen the past couple of years.
Yeah.
It's early, but they're making their mark so far. For Tampa Bay, they're the team to beat in this division. And for Tampa Bay, coming off the great win they came off of, they beat the Eagles, they've beaten Detroit. They've won some pretty important games to kick off the season.
Oh yeah.
And again, Baker sure had that stinker versus Denver, but besides that stinker, he has been sensational. And look, again, I will continue to eat my words if I have to about Baker Mayfield, but he has been really, really good. And sure, it's taken 3 teams to now land with the
Yeah.
right team for him in Tampa, but that just happens sometimes, And for right now, he is just continuing to pour it out. He torched Philadelphia, and if he plays like this, he's going to torch Atlanta. The Falcons have had a good start, but in their losses, the offense has been stagnant,
Yeah.
and the defense has been left out to dry. And when you see the opposing team, whether it be Kansas City, just really win with great defense, or you see the Steelers, just kick field goals, that's all it takes to really, wear down this Falcons defense.
Yes.
Baker, on this hand, has a really good arm. He's got a great passing attack, and he's been the crux of it with, of course, Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and many others. So all Baker has to do is be Baker so far, despite the Denver loss, and they win this game by a decent margin. So honestly, Jason, I'm not trying to downplay the Falcons. I'm not trying to put down Kirk Cousins and his
Yep.
team, but based on what I'm seeing, based on what has been the success story for Baker so far, I'm going with Tampa Bay because
Yeah.
why not? And look, I mean, again, the way they've beaten Philly, the way they beat Detroit, those are two impressive wins. The Falcons had a very impressive win versus Philly, but if they have to come back and beat them by one, that doesn't downplay their success. But you compare that to Tampa Bay, who beat them by double digits, that's a whole different story. So,
Yeah.
you know, again, I think it'll be a close game. I think it'll be back and forth. I think we could see something similar to what we saw between the Falcons and Chiefs 2 weeks ago, where it could come down to a potential game-winning drive. But it also could be Baker just being Baker and balling out. So, regardless of how close or how far away the score is, give me Baker Mayfield. Give me the Buccaneers because right now they're the best team in that division. And sure, the Falcons are right behind them fighting for first place. Tampa Bay just has the wealth of experience, regardless of who the quarterback is. And on top of the fact, again, Baker has been good. Kirk Cousins has been good too, but Baker has been better so far this year.
Yep, I completely agree. One thing I don't know if you paid any attention and seen any of what the Falcons have done outside of the game with the Chiefs and the Thursday night football game, but something's got to be up with Bijan Robinson.
Yeah.
He's not doing a lot. He doesn't look amazing out there. I don't know if he's banged up. There's a lot of plays that they're giving to Algier, and I know Algier is good, but it does make you wonder if there's something going on there.
Well,
But
yeah, I mean, again, yeah, sorry, quickly. I mean, again, we don't know. We just don't know until something gets released eventually. But maybe he's hurt, maybe he's not. I've got no idea. But that is something right there. Excuse me. And when they were going to go for that fourth and short play at the Kansas City 15 2 weeks ago, they gave the ball to Bijan and he couldn't get the first down.
yeah.
So maybe it's confidence, maybe it's an injury. Who knows what it is?
That was a
But that is
combination
something
of
to
him not doing very well there, and it was just a poorly planned fly. It was a combination of
right,
both there.
right, sure, sure. So we'll
But
see.
yeah, hopefully for him, he's healthy and there's nothing going on there.
Yeah,
If they could get him going, that would be huge for that Falcons offense. It really would be.
big time.
But yeah, I know. Look, a division game. It's a game. Those are games that I feel like could go either way, just because of the implications of it being a division game. But with how well Baker's playing, besides the one mess up game against Denver, I just there's no way I can't go them. And look, maybe the Falcons surprise me, but just everything seems to be going right for them right now. Mike Evans looks great. Godwin looks great. Um, I do think this is going to be a close game. I don't think it's going to be anything like we just saw in, what the Eagles side, what they just did to the Eagles. I think this could be
Mhm.
a one possession game. I wouldn't be shocked if it's within 6 points. I really think it will be.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
but I think it's going to be a really, really fun Thursday night game that the Buccaneers do pull off to go to 4-1. We move in though to the London game on Sunday. The Jets coming off an abysmal performance against the Denver Broncos, only put up, I want to say, 9 points, which is just unacceptable. Against the Minnesota Vikings, 4-0, coming off a big win against you guys. Sam Darnold still looks great. Jefferson looks great. What are your thoughts going into this one?
Well, look, the Vikings were not completely healthy, but they were more healthy when Jordan Addison returned from injury, and
Yep.
he played a great game too. Let's not forget that. Jordan Addison last week had a receiving touchdown and a rushing touchdown. So you put that together, he had those two scores and finished with 79 total yards, 72 receiving yards, 7 yards on the ground.
Yep.
And that's all he needed to score his touchdown. One carry for 7 yards, he scored the second one for him. So it was good to see him back for the Vikings. That's a big bounce back where they're now 4-0. And yeah, look, the Vikings almost blew that game, but this Vikings defense is tough, physical, strong, and they've been able to get pressure to Brock Purdy, to CJ Stroud, and the Jordan Love now 3 straight weeks.
Yep.
You don't just do that just to do that. You do that because you're a very good defense. And the Vikings, regardless of how many points they gave up last week, are an excellent defense. They're honestly one of the best in this league. I would say right now, the Vikings are easily a top 3 defense right now in the National Football League.
Oh, I
That's
completely
how
agree.
good That's how good they're playing right now on defense. And they give so much compliment to Sam Darnold that he looks like one of the best quarterbacks right now in football. I mean, he leads all quarterbacks in passing touchdowns with 11 so far this year in
That's
4 games.
amazing from where he came from and how he started his
Yeah.
career.
Yeah, so again, he's been great. The Vikings looked really good despite blowing that game. They still looked pretty good and they held on. There's a reason why they're 4-0 for the first time since 2016. But on top of the fact, look, the Jets did play terrible. And Aaron Rodgers, I mean, that was not an Aaron Rodgers performance. What helped out the Jets is that Bo Nix looked 1,000 times worse. I mean,
That's the only
don't get me
reason that
wrong.
game was close. Yeah.
Right. And I like Bo Nix a lot. I really, really do. But when you go, what, 7 of 15 from what, -7 yards at one point? I
That's
think it was
insane.
something
Yeah.
something like that. I mean that is bad. Look, I can't play football for my life. You can't play football for your life. Our mothers combined
I
could
stick
have
to
thrown more
Madden.
passing yards. Yeah, no, yeah, I mean, yeah, well, yeah, right, exactly. I mean, both of our mothers who can't play football for their lives either, who are not athletic whatsoever to begin with, they would have thrown more combined than Bo Nix did last week. That's how bad it was. So, no, I mean, come on,
No, you're not
think
wrong.
about it.
Yeah.
But I love Bo Nix, and that's a tough one. Hopefully, he'll bounce back. But for Rodgers, he wasn't that impressive. The Jets weren't that impressive.
Yeah.
If they played a team like the Vikings last week, if they played San Francisco, if they played the Chiefs, if they played Baltimore, any competitive team right now, they would have gotten smoked by putting up those 9 points.
Yep.
Because Derrick Henry would have had a field day at that crummy place called MetLife Stadium. But the point is that,
Yeah, you would have
yeah,
looked at
look,
that scoreboard and without knowing what was going on, you would have been like, "Is Zach Wilson back?"
well, he kind of was because he was on the
Yeah.
sidelines of the Broncos.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, the Jets are going to need a bounce back. But
Yes.
honestly, with the way they looked this past week, this is not the right game for them to do that against because the
No.
Vikings are red hot despite losing that game, or rather despite blowing that lead. They almost lost that game, but they didn't, of course. But the point is that look, the Vikings are gonna be more intense and more motivated
Yep.
to not blow up a big lead or blow any lead to begin with this week. Let alone they're not even in the States; they're going to London. So with how good Darnold's been, with how good the offense has been, with how physical the defense has been so far, the Vikings have nothing to lose here. They
Yeah.
are going all in to improve to 5-0. The Jets have something to prove after that really shaky performance last week. And
Yep.
it's going to be hard for them to do that against a really red hot Vikings team where, again, I've talked about both sides of the ball. They've just been sensational.
Yep.
So I think there's no question here, Jason, that Sam Darnold and the Vikings improved to 5-0. That's my opinion. I think they win. You would hope Rodgers plays better. You would hope he improves. I think Rodgers will be better than what he was this past
Yeah.
week. But if this Vikings defense is, again, shutting down Purdy, CJ Stroud, and Jordan Love, despite the passing yards, sacking them multiple times, winning against them, forcing picks, drawing them into back corners, if they could do that versus three really good quarterbacks, why can't they do that to Aaron Rodgers this week?
No.
That's just my question. So based on those things, you got to give me Sam Darnold and the Vikings right now.
Yeah.
No question about
I
it.
completely agree. One thing I will say is poor Jets. They've had their first 3 games were in what 10 day span or whatever.
Yep.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and now their 5th game they have to go to London. So somebody does not like the Jets out here. It's a rough start to the season for their schedule. But
Well, I mean, look, I mean, you've got those 3 games in 10 days or what have you, but you also had 10 days to prep for this game
that's
that you
true.
just played versus
That
Denver,
is true.
and you almost had a complete catastrophe. So, regardless of how they start the season, I mean, you had 10 days to play a bad Broncos team, and on top of the fact, yeah, sure, you're going to London, but you still got 7 days, 6 days to get ready
True.
for that trip.
True.
You know.
No, I
So,
know.
regardless, come on.
No, you're right. You're right. But look, I think the Vikings win this one. As you said, Rodgers will look better, but I think the Vikings win this one pretty convincingly. I really just they just look so dominant out there.
They do. They
Um,
do.
you know, uh, Aaron Jones I know you hate hearing it, but he looks good over there.
Mhm.
Justin
He does.
Jefferson looks amazing. Addison being back just adds to what Donald's doing. Just man, they are a scary team right now, and the Jets, they definitely look. They have issues. It seems like right now, Rodgers was not happy with Salah at the end of that game. I don't know if you saw some of that stuff with those clips, but
Mhm.
he was not happy with that. And look, this is the game that kind of scares me for Aaron Rodgers because he's playing such a physical defense in the
Right.
Vikings, and you hope he doesn't get repeatedly sacked. You really do.
Well, again, that also brings up a next level of concern right there because let's say he takes a hit and God forbid he gets hurt. We hope it's not last season all over again, but it could be if it's something so severe,
Yeah,
because he's coming off the torn Achilles, and on top of the fact, I mean, yeah, he's taking on a very very physical defense. Buffalo in that first game last year was physical, but they're nowhere
they're
close
nothing
to the
like the
level
Vikings.
of
Yeah,
well, yeah, nowhere close to that level of intensity this team has this year in the Vikings. And it just takes one bad O line job, which the Jets have had that problem for years. It takes one bad O lineman to let someone go at Rodgers. He gets taken down, and the rest is history. So we'll see, but yeah, don't expect the Jets to win.
yeah. No, I completely agree. This is a pretty convincing win. I feel like, as we said, I
Absolutely.
really feel that way. We move into the
For
one
sure.
o'clock window. Two teams. The Panthers lost to the Bengals. Their offense still looked good. They put up, I believe, 24 points. Andy Dalton is 10 times better than Bryce Young for that team.
I just don't get it.
They're actually able to move the ball. And the Bears coming off their best offensive week of the season. DeAndre Swift woke up, came out of hibernation, and actually did something for the team. Right as last week we were talking about what the point of signing him was if you're not going to use him. He finally
Hmm.
did something. Um,
Right.
Caleb Williams was a little bit better. They won that game against the Rams. Panthers, Bears, obviously. What are your thoughts here?
All right. So this was a Thursday night football game last year, and I would rather jump off a bridge than watch a repeat of that game from last year. But this year's version of the matchup is a whole different conversation.
Yeah,
And yeah, Justin Fields is not there. Yeah, Bryce Young is not starting. But the Bears, yeah, they had that great performance last week, but can it continue? That's the
that's the
million-dollar question.
that's the big question. They have one good week and then one or two really bad ones.
And the Panthers, yeah, they lost, but they made it close with Cincinnati.
Yeah,
They made it really close with Cincinnati, closer than
yes.
many folks would have thought. And I seriously, I just don't understand it. I don't understand how Andy Dalton is 10 times better than Bryce Young. And okay, he's a veteran quarterback. He's been around for a while. Fine. Bryce Young was not a star he was a star in college, but he wasn't Tua. He wasn't Joe
Yeah,
Burrow. He wasn't, Caleb Williams to a certain extent, right? In college at least. But Bryce Young was a very good quarterback
yes.
with Alabama. But yet again, we see this consistent trend of Bama quarterbacks either get hurt too much, Tua, or just crap out in the NFL. Mac
Yeah,
Jones, now Bryce Young. So
sure.
we're seeing this trend consistently. And as bad enough Bryce Young plays for the Panthers, that's number one. But number two, I mean, how Andy Dalton is more serviceable, more successful, and light years better at the age he's at right now. Again, seriously, I just don't understand it. You're gonna have to, pay me 4 more years of college tuition to try to understand this again,
Yeah,
because I really don't get it. But my point is here, look, this is a game again that we could see go back and forth. We said lots of times last week that we're not going to find out what happens until the game starts on
and
what
this is
team we're
one of
getting.
those. Yep.
This is one of those games again, exactly. So we could see Dalton continue it, which I think we will. But that question is poised more towards Chicago. What offense are we getting against this Panthers defense? That's the larger question. Andy Dalton has Andy Dalton's proven himself to be the guy right now for the Panthers.
Yep.
No question about it. He's working things out. Panthers defense, again, hit or miss. We'll see what happens. But for the Bears, can Caleb Williams build off of that last week? Can Chicago build off of their win versus a very badly injured Rams team? Can DeAndre Swift continue that success?
Yep.
Can they get something going? That's the questions. And
Yep.
honestly, I just don't know. So, to be honest with you, I wouldn't trust Chicago for my lives. I wouldn't trust the Panthers either. Don't get me wrong. I mean,
But
you're
Andy
choosing two
Dalton
bad.
showed a little more promise than Caleb
He
Williams so
did,
far.
he
So
did.
that's
And
why
look, I
I'm gonna
mean,
go with the
you got
Panthers.
well. I mean, again, you've got two bad choices here. I mean, it's like choosing between terrible car insurance and terrible boat insurance. I really don't know which way
Yeah.
to go. But the Panthers are the bad in car insurance, where at least I still get something out of it. So I will also go with Carolina. And I know it sounds crazy that we're choosing the Panthers to be what 3-2
No,
or
there'll be
or
two
or
and
or, or
three.
two
There'll
and
be two and
three
three.
rather.
Yes.
Yeah, 2-3. So the fact that we went from the Panthers being 0-2, getting outscored 73-13, to the team potentially being one game below 500 5 weeks in, you wouldn't have guessed that. But that's going to be the case. I think that will happen. I think Carolina wins. And again, this could be a close back and forth game because of how good and bad it could get. But um, I'll go with Carolina. I mean, the fact that the Panthers are the safety bet in this game
Yeah.
is really telling.
Yes.
So I will go with Carolina for the safety sake. But if Chicago's able to turn it around and they are able to, able to build something off last week, then good for them. But I'm not going to believe it until I see it. So give me Carolina.
Yeah. The Bears are notorious for a great performance and then a couple straight really terrible ones. So for that purpose and how Andy Dalton looks, I got to go to Panthers here. Again, would not shock me if it goes either way. Um,
Mm-hmm.
the one thing I do want to say for Andy Dalton is I give him a lot of credit because it's had to have been at least 5 years since he's consistently played weekly, right? It's had to have been at least five
It's been a
years.
while. I mean, I can't comment on that statement for sure, but it has been a while since he's been a consistently starting quarterback. That's for sure.
Yeah, I would think it's been at least 5 years. It's definitely
It's been a while because
yeah,
he's bounced around a couple of teams since leaving the Bengals.
yeah. So got to give him credit at 36 years old, coming in there after not being a consistent quarterback for a while and actually making them competitive in these games. So a lot of credit to him there. But I do think they win this game just because of the inconsistency of Caleb Williams and the
Yep.
Bears. We move into a game that we don't really have to talk about too much because it's Deshaun Watson and the Cleveland Browns, and we all know they're terrible. Playing a 3-1 top of the NFC East Commanders with Jaden Daniels, who looked great again. What are your thoughts on this one?
Jaden Daniels actually has value and promise. Deshaun Watson had value and promise.
Yeah,
He threw it away when he went to a massage parlor 24 different times. So, yeah, I knew you would like that one. Anyway, the point is that the Browns are awful. They're
yeah,
lousy. And when they decide to pay Deshaun Watson, half of that money goes to legal fees. So that's not going to help their case. That's not going to help their case again this week because
nope.
Jaden Daniels is playing out of his world. And the fact that the Commanders are the top team right now in that division, not Philadelphia, not Dallas, says a
You know
lot.
what's crazy to think
Jaden
about, by the way?
Daniels,
Sorry to cut you off, but
go ahead. Go ahead.
how many things going a little differently we are from the Giants being the top team? Because if they had a kicker and the Giants receivers caught the ball, the Giants are 3-1 and top of the division. Like,
So the fact that the NFC East is becoming the NFC least again,
yeah,
at this point, just break up the division and just have all four teams migrate into the other three divisions. I
yeah,
think at that point, it's just that bad, or rather, all 14.
yeah.
And you know what? If you have an extra team in one place, fine. Just throw Dallas to the NFC
Yeah.
South at this point
Well,
because
actually,
it
can
makes
we
them
just get them out of the league? Actually, we can just
fine.
get them
Hey,
out of there.
okay, fine. Okay, that also works. But the point is that look, I think we're going to see the Commanders win, no question about it.
Yep.
Jaden Daniels has been so good. And we're seeing this similar story, maybe not to the certain extent. We'll have to see how this season plays out. But the Texans got C.J. Stroud. turned it into a playoff team right away.
Yep.
Washington's on that same path right now with Jaden Daniels. It is beyond impressive how they're doing this. And yet again, it's that number 2 pick for the second straight year. They're doing
Yep.
well. The number 1 pick for the second straight year is towards the bottom of the barrel, to say the least. So there's no question in my mind that Jaden Daniels, Terry McLaurin, and this Washington team is going to steamroll Cleveland.
Yep.
No question about it. And at this point, this Browns season is going to get longer and longer and longer. And the Commanders are going to be excited for once, and it really shows how exciting they're going to be because they're going to be 4-1. And regardless of what happens in the other divisional matchups, they're still going to be first in the division. So give me the Commanders because Jaden Daniels is playing out of his world right now. And again, he just continues to just prove himself as the guy for this team and as one of the next up-and-coming quarterbacks in the entire National Football League.
Yep, I completely agree. They steamroll them. I don't really think there's much to say on this game. Easy blowout. I wouldn't be shocked if they put up 30 points again. I think they put up 42 last week against the Cardinals, and I would not be shocked if they put up over 30 in this one as well, just because I don't see anything there. They had one good play, the Browns, and it got called back on the Amari Cooper catch. But that was the only thing that went right, and it quickly went wrong.
Well, the thing is, I mean, they probably will put up 30 points again. And if they do that, I think they would put up 30 points at least for the third straight week because they beat the Bengals 38-33. They, of course, put up 40 and blew out the Cardinals. And then if they put up 30-something this week, 3 straight weeks of that. So Jaden Daniels getting in a good rhythm at the right time.
Yep. Completely agree. We move into a game that it's going to be one of those games that you're going to be like, you got to be kidding me, we got to do. And I'm assuming it's Huntley again, leading the Dolphins against the New England Patriots.
I mean, look, again, this is just a painful scenario. Tua might be done. Skylar Thompson can't breathe. Tim Boyle's a fluke. And now Tyler Huntley might have to come in. I mean, at this point, you're better off getting the mayor of Miami and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis to play quarterback for the Dolphins at this point. So, no, I mean, come on. I mean, DeSantis. I have a whole line of cousins in Miami who can probably step up right now and stay more healthy than these guys. And keep in mind, I have a 77-year-old cousin. She can't throw a football for her life. She would be in better health right now than these Dolphins quarterbacks. So, and I love my cousin. You're awesome, but that says a lot. Anyway, the point is that the Dolphins are this is so embarrassing. It's really, really bad. And I mean, I wouldn't have a stick play quarterback for the Dolphins. So, the Patriots are going to win this game. I think we'll put it out that way. Because if the Titans can grab their first win of the season in the way they did, why can't the Patriots?
I think any team could beat this Dolphins team right now. I really do.
Yeah.
Tyreek's frustrated. There's no quarterback.
No. It's a mess. So, and also they've lost 3 straight games now ever since starting 1-0, right?
Yep.
So you lose 3 straight. It's going to be 4 straight. New England's no rah great team. New England just has to play average to win this game. Tennessee played all right. Sure, look, I mean, the offense was there, but their quarterback, Will Levis, got hurt. So they're playing also with an average quarterback, but they won by 14 points or so, even more than that. So regardless, all the Patriots have to do is be average, run the ball, Brissett to have a clean game, the defense to be solid enough that there's no turnovers, and that's it.
Yeah.
And the Patriots win that way. So that's going to happen.
Completely agree. Question for you before we move into the next game. If this continues to spiral, could you see McDaniels getting fired?
No, because I don't see it because there's only so much McDaniels can do right now.
True.
He has 2 quarterbacks.
Okay, so let me rephrase that. If Tua comes back and this continues, can you see him getting fired?
Well, there are 2 answers to that question. When does he come back, and what's his health status?
Yes.
Keep those 2 things in mind because Tua could come back, and knowing this Dolphins team, which they've done in the past, they could rush him back and he gets hurt again, God forbid. We
That's
saw that 2 years ago.
sadly is the very real possibility.
But also, again, is Tua going to be able to recover in time? And when is he coming back? Because let's say he comes back in mid-November and the Dolphins are what, 1-6, 1-7, 2-5, something like that. Again, just I'm just throwing numbers out there. But let's say they have a really bad losing record when Tua comes back, then you can't blame McDaniel.
No,
You
at that
can't,
point the
because
season's already over. Yeah.
exactly. And on top of that fact, again, with two banked up quarterbacks and knowing the season's basically over, they're not going to make a splash at the trade deadline. Obviously not. They'll sell some pieces, probably, not Tyreek, but some other players, but they're not going to trade for a quarterback if they're 1-7 by the deadline, or 2-5, or even worse than that.
No, I agree.
So again, you have to take it with a grain of salt. If Tua was healthy, and this is just a stinker of a season, then of course you fire McDaniel.
Yeah.
But you can't fire him based on these current circumstances where Tua for his life can't stay healthy. And honestly, I mean, I can't tell you what's going to happen with him once the season is over. But if Tua has to retire, then obviously, the Dolphins have to find a new quarterback.
Yep.
And Skylar Thompson's not the answer. So Mike McDaniel is going to have to start from scratch if Tua can't play no more.
Yep.
So these are all these factors you have to keep in mind. No, McDaniel does not get fired. The season probably will be lost by the time Tua comes back if he does.
Yep.
But Mike McDaniel is not to blame. The circumstances are.
Yeah, I will be honest with you. I don't think Mike McDaniels is a good coach, but I don't think
he's not. Look. I mean, he's no Bill Belichick for sure.
Yeah.
He's no, star coach. He's no Kyle Shanahan. But you know what? He's found a way to win games with Tua and to make Tua better. So regardless of that, Mike McDaniel knows how to work with Tua. That's what matters right now.
No, I
and
agree.
Regardless of the injuries, the lost season, whatever, he and Tua have a great relationship. Excellent.
And that's
relationship.
Huge, yeah.
That's all that matters right now.
We got 2 minutes, but before we have to restart. But you talk a relationship, and look at what poor relationship is doing to that Eagles team right now. The relationship between the quarterback and the coach is killing them. So it's huge for them. You're right. You are right on that. So, look, I don't have much to say on this one other than the fact that the Patriots win this game, and to be totally real, this could be like a 10-6 game. I don't really see much happening in this game.
It could be, again, one of these Broncos-Jets situations where you're just gouging your eyes out when you watch this game.
It's very, very, very possible, yeah. So, Alex, we move into the next game. We got the Colts, who just won against ending the Steelers' undefeated streak at 3-0, making them 3-1 now, with potentially Joe Flacco in there, by the way, because Anthony Richardson got injured. And all I'm going to say, I'm not one to bash a lot, but shame on that Colts coaching staff that Anthony Richardson got hurt, and they brought him back out there and had him run the ball and get even more banged up. Just so terrible on that coaching staff. It's actually embarrassing what they did to him there. A guy who's already injury prone and now he's hurt again. Just don't if you're gonna bring him back in, don't have him run the ball immediately. It makes no sense against an embarrassing Jacksonville Jaguars team who blew another game. What are your thoughts on this one?
Joe Flacco, in now the second straight season, is going to save a team season. And maybe the Colts don't make the playoffs this year, but Joe Flacco is going to make them interesting. That's what happened with Cleveland. Got them to the postseason. Sure, they lost, but he got them there, So you put that against this crap in Jacksonville, where, I mean, pig vomit is more impressive right now than this Jacksonville Jaguars team. So I think it's very clear to say who's going to win this game.
Yep.
The Colts, no question about it, Jason. I mean, there's not much to talk about here because it's very clear that Joe Flacco, again, is going to have to come in and save a team season because Deshaun Watson stinks and can't stay healthy. The other quarterback they had last year was terrible. Joe Flacco comes in, saves the day. Anthony Richardson, can't stay healthy. Second straight year, second season in the league, gets hurt again. He has to come in, helps them win that game. So it's really simple. And this is something that we're seeing a lot with especially SEC quarterbacks. We mentioned Tua a lot. Tua, of course, played at Bama. Richardson played at Florida in Gainesville.
Yeah.
These are two SEC quarterbacks, prominent quarterbacks, who were drafted top 5 in each of their draft classes, and for the life of them, they can't stay healthy. Tua, first couple of years, banged up. Richardson, first 2 years, banged up. Tua again got hurt. So I just don't get it with that. Maybe these SEC quarterbacks are weak. I've got no idea. But the point is that look, it really says something where you have him out there. He played a couple games last year, missed the season. He's played a
I
couple
think he
so
got
far,
like
got hurt
2 or
twice.
3 last year, and even in his debut game, I want to say he was banged up.
Versus Jacksonville.
Yeah.
So again, I just don't get the mindset here. Number one. Number two, it is that poor management of these quarterbacks, and it really should bring up a question. What is the NFL doing wrong where you have 2 top 5 drafted quarterbacks getting hurt consistently? One of them has had 3 concussions in 3 years, and the second one's had 2 concussions in the first 2 years. And on top of that, he's been hurt again. So there's something has to be changed. These coaches need to take further precaution on how they build up these younger quarterbacks, because for some reason they think they're made of steel. They're obviously made of glass, and I don't know what's causing it, but a change has to happen. And you're right. He's hurt. Why bring him out there again, and then again, cause him to further get injured? And on top of the fact, he suffered the injury in his rookie season. Why would you not prep him more or get him in better shape to stay strong and healthy?
Yep.
So those are questions right there. But simply based off that, the Colts win this game because there is nothing going right for Jacksonville. And
what if they lost 9 straight games now? I think dating back to last year.
Yeah, they're so bad. But no, the fact that it takes Joe Flacco again to come out of nowhere and save a team and keep them somewhat competitive says a lot. So give me Joe Flacco and the Colts. There's no doubt in my mind they win this game.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that. Let's move on. Easy win for the Colts. We move into a great 1 o'clock game, by the way. The angry Buffalo Bills coming off a really ugly game against the Baltimore Ravens, trying to bounce back against the Texans. Stefon Diggs returns and plays Buffalo. This is obviously in Houston, but it's the first time he's playing Buffalo, obviously, since being traded. What are your thoughts on this game?
This will be a good game. And look, Houston's coming off a great win versus Jacksonville. Buffalo's coming off that tough defeat, like you mentioned. Both teams are going to be really motivated. They're going to be very motivated here. Buffalo's going to be more motivated after losing the way they did. Yep. Stefon Diggs just wants pure revenge against his old team. So you're going to get a shootout. You're going to get a back-and-forth game. But honestly, I look at Houston, and Josh Allen is great, and Josh Allen is good. He's the best quarterback right now in football, I think. But actually, you know what? I take that back. I'm crazy. I watch the Vikings every week. Sam Darnold's the best quarterback right now in football. But Josh Allen's a top 5 for sure. Yeah. Anyway, the point is that you see what we saw last week. They're going to be hungry, but Houston's just looking good. So I think that's going to clash, but I think it's going to be the will of Diggs more than the will of Allen and the Bills. Yep. I think Stroud's going to really give it to Diggs. I think he's really going to build his further chemistry with him and Nico Collins and all the really great talent he has around him. So give me Stroud and give me Houston. I think they win. And look, Buffalo has a lot more to prove, don't get me wrong, based off the past couple of years and falling short to Kansas City multiple times and what have you. And they're going to want to bounce back versus Baltimore. But for Houston, they're a team trying to prove, they're not just a one-time fluke from last year. Yep. They are legit, and they're still trying to prove that, despite the success they had last year. But they're a team that really sees themselves as being a true contender with Kansas City. Yep. Buffalo does too. Houston just has the better firepower to actually compete with the Chiefs. So yep. I think that will prove itself, and the Texans win this weekend.
Yep. No, I completely agree. Well, we all know how it goes with Buffalo. It always goes wide right.
Yes, it
but
does.
but yeah, no, they are. Look, I think this is going to be an amazing game. I think, as you said, Stefan Diggs is going to will them to this win just because of how badly he wants revenge. It really didn't end very well for him in Buffalo. A lot of tension built up between him and Allen. There were just a lot of issues going on there. So I think he's going to
Yep.
really, really want this win. Um, and obviously, we're coming off such an ugly performance from the Bills. It's a little
Hmm.
concerning. I think Allen might be banged up. His hand is still weird. I think his hand's wrapped up every game, so that's a
Okay.
concern. But yeah, I don't know. I think this is gonna be a shootout game. I really do.
Sure. Oh yeah, for
I
sure.
would not
For
be
sure.
shocked if it's like last night's Lions game. Both teams are at least 30 points. I would not be shocked at all to see that. And I'm super excited, but I am as well going with the Texans in what should be a high-based offensive battle back and forth. Um, but yeah, I think this is a high-scoring one possession game between these two teams.
Yep. Exactly.
We move in though to another 1 o'clock game, a division battle that should be a lot of fun. The Baltimore Ravens coming off their dominant performance against the Bills, against the Cincinnati Bengals coming off their first win. What do you got here?
I mean, I think it's really simple because Baltimore's coming off a great game and Derrick Henry looked unstoppable, like the old Derrick Henry we saw in
Yeah,
college and with the Titans. Jason, sure, the Bengals won this game, but look who they beat. And again, no diss to Carolina, but they beat the Panthers for their first win this year.
yeah,
So good that they got the win, but it's not going to last into this week because Baltimore's a real team. And guarantee the Ravens, struggled with the 0-2 start. They are really fine though past 2 weeks with wins versus Dallas, and the way they beat Buffalo was beyond impressive.
yep,
So the Ravens are back in it. They're hungry. They're determined. Derrick Henry looks great. Lamar played a great game versus Buffalo. Also, that's going to continue. Simple as that. And we've talked about how bad the Bengals defense has been this year. They barely, top fact, they gave up those 38 points to Washington, where again Jane Daniels played great, but that defense cost them that game, which was almost a
yeah,
comeback for the Bengals. So defense will not be able to keep up with Derrick Henry, with Lamar, with this Ravens offense right now. And with how physical the Ravens defense has always been, the way they shut down Josh Allen, why can't they shut down Joe Burrow for a second straight week? So, in Baltimore, no question about it, they're going to win 3 straight.
yeah. I completely agree. And one thing I do want to say for the Ravens is, after a rough start to the season, one thing I was here. Derrick Henry, I felt like a lot of people are questioning: is Derrick Henry done? Is he going to be the same guy going forward? Are we nearing the end of Derrick Henry? And man, he looked incredible last week. It
I mean,
looked like
last week he was great, and he's been good all season, even in the losses, Jason. I mean, he scored the first touchdown of the year, period,
yeah,
and he's just been a great momentum shifter for this team. He's been excellent.
yeah, no, 100%. Look, I do think Burrow and Chase have another good week together, but I don't think it's enough to compete with this Ravens team. They just are they look like they're on another level right now,
They
and
are.
that I do think, despite them being 3-1, the Steelers, I still think the Ravens will end up passing them and winning this division. I really feel that.
I think there's no question about that because again, look again. Baltimore is a good team. They're the best team in that division. Pittsburgh, like we keep saying week after week, they're a fluke team. They win games, they start strong, but they collapse. They melt like wax. So they are nothing.
Yep,
Baltimore is the team to beat, and they're going to prove it again this week.
yep, completely agree. As much as I hate saying that we're gonna lose the game, we move into the first of the 4 or 5 games. A game that I think is gonna be really, really ugly. A division battle between two teams. We got the Raiders against the Broncos. What are your thoughts here?
Well, if Bo Nix has -7 passing yards again, there's no question that the Raiders win this game. And then we also look at the Raiders, and Gardner's been disappointing. Gardner Minshew, that is. And I think Devontae Adams got banged up this past week. So
He didn't even play
we're
this
gonna,
week. He didn't even play, actually.
yeah. So look, it's something where These things play factors. This is the game again where we're gonna have to wait until we see the first kickoff. Who has momentum? Who has the swing? Because Bo Nix was great 2 weeks ago. This past week he was horrific. And
Yep.
Denver again, they're a team where they show glimpses, and then there are times where it's you just want to pull your hair out, you know. And the Raiders are the same way this year. There are glimpses, and then you want to rip your hair out. You just don't know what you're getting.
Yep.
But look, I mean, again, this one's also such a coin flip where you could go either way. You could choose either team. Both teams are 2-2, like you mentioned, but they're not a very impressive 2-2. You know,
Yep.
so they're in really really tough situations. But you got to choose somebody. I wish I could choose a tie, and if it's a tie, I wouldn't be surprised, but I doubt that's going to happen. But you know what? Give me Denver because I like Bo Nix. I really like Bo Nix. I really hope he does well. And 2 weeks ago, he showed promise. This past week, yeah, it wasn't good. Okay, fine. But you know what? There's more upside to Bo Nix, even with that bad start, compared to Gardner Minshew. Gardner's great, good quarterback, serviceable, but he's no franchise quarterback.
Yep.
Bo Nix is the franchise, regardless of how you feel right now, 4 games into his rookie season. He's the guy who's going to be there for several years down the line. God willing that stays that way for his sake, but, you know, he's the guy that Denver's putting their confidence in. And again, he showed great glimpses, and there are times where he struggled. But you know what? I think Bo's going to be very motivated to bounce back this week, especially against such a division rival that the Broncos need this win. Bo needs to show out.
Yep.
And Bo Nix knows he can play well. He knows he can do that. So if we go back to 2 weeks ago and he just looks back on the success he had versus the Buccaneers, that's going to make the difference. And I think we'll see that. So give me Denver.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think Denver wins in what will probably be a ugly, low-scoring football game. I really don't see a lot coming out of this game.
But look, if Bo Nix has a productive game, and for him, productive is at least over 100 yards and maybe 2 touchdown passes, one being generous enough.
Yep.
If that's enough to win this game, then be satisfied with Bo Nix. Again, it's a learning process.
Yes.
And the Broncos are a team that have been searching for a quarterback since Peyton Manning, obviously. And they haven't had the answer. And they're going to need time still to retool, rebuild, reshape this offense, especially who's calling plays. So give Bo more time. And after last week, if Bo has an average game, that's a win right there.
Yep. I completely agree. But yeah, Broncos win in an ugly game. We move into the next game of the 4 o'clock window. A game that I feel like is going to be an absolute steamroll, but it is a division game. We got the Arizona Cardinals against the San Francisco 49ers. What are your thoughts on this?
Jason, let me think about that for a second because I'm really having a hard time contemplating who I'm going to choose. You ready?
Yeah.
There's no question it's going to be the San Francisco 49ers. Look, again, they're banged up. They're hurt. Purdy's playing, though, which is a good sign.
Debo came back.
McCaffrey's still hurt, fine, but Mason's a good fill. So, I mean, again, there's not much to talk about here. Arizona got blown out by Jayden Daniels, rightfully so. Why can't the 49ers just blow them out again? They do it every single season, no matter where the game's being played. So just go with the 49ers, and we'll talk about them again next week.
Yeah, I completely agree. I would not be shocked to see the Niners have over 30 points in this game, or maybe even more, just like the Commanders just did against this team. It is very, very possible. The only real bright side to this Cardinals team is Marvin Harrison Jr. That's the only reason you would put on a Cardinals game, unless you're a fan of the Cardinals, because there's really no positives there.
Well, I mean, again, Chicago is really just kicking themselves, and I love that they're kicking themselves. That could have he could have been a Bear, and it's so funny because Tom Brady was on the
he almost signed with the Bears, but they didn't.
He mentioned
that. Yeah.
So the Bears missed out on Tom Brady and Marvin Harrison Jr.
And probably would have won a Super Bowl at that point because there's almost no way they wouldn't.
Well, again, here's the ultimate catch. They missed out on Brady. They missed out on Marvin Harrison Jr. They traded away Justin Fields, and they draft Mitch Trubisky over Pat Mahomes.
So basically, the thing is, the lesson is, if something could go wrong, it could happen. It will happen to the Bears.
It will happen to Chicago no matter what team plays and no matter what happens in the
Yes,
city of Chicago. But yes, the Bears to be specific, absolutely.
yes, it's a disaster. But yeah,
Again, they're so bad at decisions. If they told me they turned my kitchen stove off, I wouldn't believe them. I would drive back to my house to make sure the kitchen stove was off.
it's funny actually. But
That's
yeah, I
true.
completely agree. But yeah, them and the Cardinals, both disasters so far, in my opinion. Actually, I guess you could say they're a little bit better than the Cardinals, the Bears, just because at least
But I
they
mean, come
win.
on. I mean, what are you comparing? Crap on a stick and crap on the ground? Like, come on.
No, you're right. You're completely right. But for our sake, we move in to the next game because the Niners just killed them in that game. It's gonna be a slaughter. And
Mm-hmm.
anybody in my chat who might be a Cardinals fan probably doesn't want to hear about this game. We move in though to a game that it's a shame it would have been a little bit more interesting if we knew what was 100% going on with Malik Neighbors on if he was playing, considering the fact that he got concussed at the end of that game. Um, but we got the Giants against the Seahawks, who just came off a loss, but a really good game against the Lions. It was a very fun game.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe one of the games of the year so far. But
Absolutely.
what are your thoughts on this one?
Well, look, I mean, again, whether Malik Neighbors is healthy or not, he's not making a difference in this game. He'll play good, but he's not gonna make a difference in who wins or who loses.
Yeah,
Seattle's winning this game, and despite them losing 42-29, Geno Smith had nearly 400 passing yards,
that's incredible.
and he went 39 for 56. Think about that.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Put that up at those stats he could easily accomplish versus the Giants, and he
Well, the
did that
Giants'
versus
defense is a lot
Detroit.
better this year. I will give them that.
They are, but the Giants as a whole are not a good team still.
Yep.
So look, I mean, there's no question I'm choosing Seattle. And based off the way that they were 3-0, they fought a 3-1, they're going to bounce back and this is a massive bounce back game. This is the right opponent to have if you're Seattle to
Yeah.
bounce back after such a loss,
Yeah.
especially at home. So there's no question that they're going to win this game.
Yeah, I agree. It's a shame for Daniel Jones, by the way, because he finally had a really good game, and his receivers just shot him in the foot repeatedly with that dropping. Wan'Dale Robinson dropped multiple catches he should have had. Darius Slayton, I can't believe they even still employ that guy on that team. He's just not a good receiver at all. Dropped multiple passes. That was probably one of Daniel Jones' best games I've seen from him in his career. He looked really, really good out there, and they couldn't get in the end zone because the receivers were horrendous. But yeah, Seahawks
What
win
happens
this.
in Jersey stays in Jersey.
Yep,
Simple
yeah,
as that.
yeah. So no question on this one. They win. They win that game. The Seahawks. Kenneth Walker's back. He had 3 touchdowns yesterday. Looked amazing. Um, despite the loss, Geno obviously we said looked amazing. I don't really think this is a close game. I think the Seahawks could win by like maybe 2 possessions. I think, and not like just field goals. Like I think they could. I think it could be like a 2 touchdown score game here. I really feel that way.
It could be a lot more than that, Jason.
I'm trying
It could
to.
be a 21-point game.
It's possible. It really is. But yeah, Seahawks win this very easily. We move into the last game of the 4 o'clock window, a game that means a lot to you. The Packers trying to rebound against the Rams, who are very banged up this year and off to a very shaky start. And somehow their only win is against the 49ers, which is just crazy to say. The one bright spot so far has been 2 bright spots actually. Tutu Atwell has been good, and Kyron Williams has just been amazing so far. But what are your thoughts on this one? One thing I will say before we get into it is, and I think it would benefit you guys so much, you guys have to figure out a way to get Josh Jacobs going.
Well, it's that. Jordan Love had a really bad start.
Yes.
But despite the final stat line, the fact that he threw 4 touchdown passes and almost 400 yards, that was promise, especially in that fourth quarter.
Yep.
Even though they lost, they need to take that and translate it and to expose that against a really bad Rams team that is hurt
Yeah.
and just not good this year so
Yeah,
far.
no,
So,
the only thing I saw wrong, by the way, in that second half from Jordan Love was that horrendous pick he threw. He should not have thrown that ball.
with that, but also the fact that he had 2 picks beforehand. So
Oh, I'm saying the
that
second
didn't.
half. I'm saying the second half was
Oh,
great. Yeah,
I
except
know
that.
that. I know, but again, if you add all the entire game together, he had 3 lousy picks, regardless of how good he played in the first half or
Yeah,
not, second half or not. So, look, he's got to clean it up. And ironically, they're 0-2 with Jordan, and they're 2-0 with Malik Williams, or rather Willis. So, um, yeah, this is a must-win game for the Packers, and I think there's no question about it. I think they are going to win. I think Jordan Love, after what we saw in the second half, this Packers team looks very fired up and rejuvenated, and they look like they're ready to bounce back here. So I think they're going to win. I think they'll play well, and again, they will improve. The Rams, yeah, the reason why they have that one win is because San Francisco shot themselves in the foot, not because the Rams impressed enough to win.
um,
And last week, if they're losing to Chicago, then they're really in trouble. So
yep,
look, I mean, there is no question in my mind that the Packers win this game, and if
yep.
they don't, I might come bald on your program next week. So that's going to be a really bad problem. But no, 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 no. The Packers win. Jordan looks good again. They bounce back, and even though they lost to Philadelphia, Josh Jacobs was involved. Even though they beat the Colts by 6 points. Josh Jacobs didn't score a touchdown, but he had over 150 yards on the ground.
Yes.
So they need him to get going. And also, Love has to build these connections again with these receivers in Dobbs, Wicks, Reed, etc. So I think we'll see this nice bounce back tune up game for the Packers. They'll improve to 3-2.
I think they also need to get Josh Jacobs involved a little more in the passing game. By the way, little short
I
passes to Josh
I
Jacobs.
agree completely. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, for sure. And look, I mean, you saw that happen to Aaron Jones a little bit during his time, and it worked out well when he was involved in the passing game.
Yeah.
And Josh Jacobs is a guy who is that dual threat, where of course he can kill you with his
Yes.
speed and his strength on the ground, but yeah, he can run for yards following the catch, and he's a perfect target for that. That's part of also why they brought him in to replace Jones.
Yeah.
So you got to give him the ball in more ways than one, and hopefully we see
Yeah.
that this week.
This stat was mind blowing, by the way. They said it during the game, by the way, that in his career he's got over 200 receptions, but not a single receiving touchdown. By the way, that was a pretty interesting
Wow.
stat to hear. That was a very interesting stat to hear on him. But yeah, if you could do that, man, that would be a huge help, especially considering I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe Christian Watson is hurt again. So
Yeah, yep, he got banged up again, and we'll see what his status is. Yet again, the Packers can't avoid injuries. That happens every single season.
yeah,
So, but look, I mean, Watson didn't play a massive factor in last year's success, and he got banged up, and he was there, but he didn't do too well. And Love was able to rely on Dobbs and Wicks and Reed, and that definitely helped the cause. So we'll
yeah,
see if that happens again.
yeah, completely agree. I think the one bright spot for the Rams in this game will be Kyren Williams. I think he'll have a good game, just like he has every time. He's got 7 straight games with a touchdown, which is incredible. That kid is turned into one of the top running backs in the league, in my opinion.
Yep. Yep.
But yeah, you guys win this one honestly pretty easily. I don't really see a lot going right for the Rams here. We move in though to Sunday night football game that I think is going to be really ugly and sloppy and might surprise people. But before I give mine, I'll ask you yours. We got the 2-2 Dallas Cowboys against the 3-1 Pittsburgh Steelers coming off their first loss. What are your thoughts here?
This is going to be a headache. I mean, look, in the 1970s, this was the game, especially in the Super Bowl. Jackie Smith, my goodness, he's a sick man. He blew that catch, what have you. And you saw great games between the Steel Curtain defense for Pittsburgh and Roger Staubach, at the time when the Cowboys were actually America's team, when Staubach was this country's quarterback. Now, I mean, the Cowboys are China's team at this point. That's how hated they are. But this is a game that, again, could go back and forth. The Cowboys just held on to beat the Giants. The Steelers, yeah, they lost that game, but look, we just don't know what we're getting with Dak Prescott still. He's
Yep.
obviously just. I mean, he's always not great. We know that for sure. He's very inconsistent. He's not that great of a quarterback as folks would like him to, groom him to be. And he gets his massive contract, and he has done dog water since getting that contract. So honestly, I think Dak and the Cowboys are a fluke, and I think they'll fluke it out again. Pittsburgh's a fluke too. I've said that multiple
Yep.
times. But again, all the Steelers have to do is kick field goals to win games. That's really it. If their
Yeah.
defense can contain Prescott, if they can hold them off like Baltimore did, and they just kick field goals and hold on, then Pittsburgh wins the game. And I think we're going to see that exactly this week.
Yep.
Because guarantee the Giants almost won that game, and the Giants' defense has been better. But the Giants are, really a joke of a competition for Dallas compared to Baltimore, to Pittsburgh, to the actual other teams in the playoff race where they always lose to them season after season. So give me Pittsburgh. I think it's not going to be pretty. I think it's going to be ugly. But I think Pittsburgh wins the game, and they're going to find a way to bounce back following their loss this week.
Yep. I completely agree. I actually think that the Cowboys could be more dysfunctional right now than the Eagles. And look, to be real, they should be 1-3. They should not have won that game against the Giants if it wasn't for the Giants receivers not being able to catch a ball. The Cowboys are standing at 1-3 right now and last in the division.
Exactly.
But I don't really have a lot of faith in the Cowboys. Dak Prescott, in my opinion, was not worth what he got. How do you give somebody that much money when he hasn't even proven himself in the playoffs? I just don't understand giving a guy that much money when he has yet to prove himself in those big moments. I don't understand it.
Well, look, again, the economy doesn't really affect the way he plays. But if you want to see the ultimate example of inflation and what someone's not worth for what they make, Dak Prescott is the ultimate inflation example. He's getting more than
Trevor
he's really
Lawrence
worth.
Is calling.
Really bad.
Trevor Lawrence is calling.
Yes, him too. There's inflation there also, really bad inflation there. But I mean, this is the ultimate, NFL inflation example. It's just terrible.
Wow, wait a minute. This just came through, by the way, on ESPN, and I know it has nothing to do with the Steelers game. But the Raiders just informed other teams that they would be willing to move Davante Adams.
That's big. And that's something that, he's kind of, Davante has dismissed, I don't really want that to happen. I'm not talking about that. That's just, jargon.
Yeah.
He wants out. He's been wanting it out for years, if we really think about it.
Yep.
And it didn't work out with Carr, and since then he's been stuck there. So, good for the Raiders, because they're a team going down the wrong direction. And if he's not happy there, which he has not been happy there for years, trade him to a team where he wants to go to. And honestly, if you send him to the Jets, that makes them better. And that gives Rodgers more motivation to stay healthy, to be well, and to give the Jets a prime chance to compete this year. So I think the Jets can make a pull for him. Yeah. There are several other teams, I'm sure, who can as well. There's not really a clear picture besides the Jets in my mind of who could potentially make a move. Yeah. Maybe Washington if they have the cap. I'm not sure who, but Davante Adams will go. He should, at least. And if he goes to the Jets, that's a gift for Rodgers and company.
Yep, and I would not be shocked to see him go to the Jets. But we move into Monday Night Football, the final game of the week. The Saints coming off a bit of a rough loss, losing to a team that didn't even score a single touchdown, going up against the Chiefs, who just lost the number one wide receiver probably for the year, and Rashee Rice, after Patrick Mahomes, of all people, injured him. What are your thoughts of this game? I'm going to be honest, I don't really know what to feel because, yeah, they won the game, but they look terrible without Rice. So...
Well, look, again, they did, Jason, but let's not forget, this Chiefs defense is the main reason why they went back-to-back for last season. And the Chiefs defense is the main reason why, even though they looked bad without Rice, they still won the game, and that's why they're 4-0.
Yep.
This Chiefs defense has been the key for the second straight year. The offense has been better before the injury, but the defense has still been the main priority.
Yep.
And we're going to see this again. And honestly, we saw the same thing with the Falcons. Close game, Chiefs up by 5. Chiefs defense at the end of the day saved the game, took down Cousins and company.
Yep.
So we'll see the same thing with Carr and his team. The Chiefs defense does it. I mean, again, it'll be a close game. We'll be within 5 to 10 points, I think, again, compared to what it was with the Falcons game. But the Chiefs hold on; they'll be 5-0. And again, it's this Chiefs defense that comes in at the right time, in the right moment, at the final hour to save the day and seal the deal. That's going to happen again. Kansas City goes to 5-0.
Yep, I completely agree. We've started to these last few weeks see the usual Derek Carr that we used to see, and after a few weeks, he has a good start to the season, and then the real Derek Carr comes out every year. We give
Mm-hmm.
him a little credit to start a season, and then it just starts to go downhill again. And hopefully for him, he could get it going again because that narrative is probably got to be eating a guy like him alive. Of every year he looks good to start the season, and then it just falls to crap. But yeah, I think the Chiefs win this one pretty easily. We know Kamara is playing, but he's a little banged up. Also, Taysom Hill's hurt, so they have some injuries over there. The Saints. Obviously, we know the Chiefs are banged up too, but
Mm-hmm.
I take a banged up Chiefs team over a banged up Saints team any day of the week. Still.
Well, I mean, I take a banged up fully Saints team also. Keep that in mind. So, look again. KC is the team to beat. Obviously, back for a reason, whether you like it or not.
Yep.
They're 4-0 again. Even when they're looking to be 5-0. I think they will be 5-0. They're the
Yep.
team to beat. Holmes is the guy to stop, and they're not going to be stopped. They're going to 5-0.
Yep. I completely agree. I think it's going to be typical Chiefs football. I don't think it's going to be a pretty game. I really don't. I think it'll be a
Mm-hmm.
good game, but I definitely think there will be, one or two of those turnovers from the Chiefs, maybe a Pat Mahomes pick. I feel like that's become something to expect actually in these games because the way he plays and his play style. Just everything involving it. But yeah, they do win this game and they send the Saints from after being 2-0 to under 500 at 2-3, which would be really, really rough for the Saints. But I think it's what happens. Um, but one thing I will say, before obviously we wrap this up, is there's a few rough games in there, but there were some of those 1 o'clock games with the Texans game, the Bengals game. Some of these games in there, there's some really, really good games. I think the game with you guys and the Rams will be good. Um, I do think the Bucks Falcons will be good. So there are some
Mm-hmm.
good games in there. Obviously, as you get further into the season, I do feel like the quality of the games does take a little step back through people being banged up and also schedule, and you can't just keep avoiding bad games. It's gonna happen.
Right.
But
Well, look. I mean, again, every year you've got your great games, you've got your A games, and then you've got your really bad games. That happens all the time. I get that. That makes sense. And like you said, that's how the scheduling works. That's how a season works out. You just don't know what's going to happen with the team as time goes on, obviously. But no, I mean, again, every week is going to be good matchups and bad matchups, and we've got plenty of good ones this week, especially. So.
yeah, we'll see, and we'll see what teams get upset because I feel like there's been a couple upsets every week, and I'm sure we're in
Mhm.
for another one or two. So, but looks it should be a fun week. Thank you guys so much for watching our week 5 prediction video, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you guys liked the video, please leave a like. If you guys are new here, drop a sub, please, and thank you. We also would love to see your guys' comments, your guys' predictions for the week. It should be an amazing, amazing week of football. Also, little side note, guys, October 19th, guys, Grit and Glory on my Twitch. We are hosting a live professional wrestling show. So, guys, if that interests you, definitely make sure you go follow the Twitch. Should be an amazing show there. But I appreciate you guys, and we will see you guys next week for week 6. Peace out, everyone.